Hello and welcome to another SciFirst MovieTalk episode. In this episode I will be discussing Disney's 1977 animated classic, The Rescuers, watched again as part of our family film night series. By my reckoning, depending on your thoughts on what constitutes a movie included as part of the Disney's animation classics range, this would be Disney's 23rd such animated classic. Directed by Wolfgang Reitherman, John Lounsbury and Art Stevens, and based on the series of books by Marjorie Sharp, the movie sees us introduced to a world of mice living in parallel to ours, involving an organisation not too dissimilar to our own United Nations, called the Rescue Aid Society, whose mission is basically to help those in need who can't help themselves. As an aside note, when I come to think about the movie, was followed later, about 10 years later, by Basil the Great Mouse Detective, and although there is never any link or suggestion that this was intended, the parallels between the two are extremely similar, both operating within a world of mice parallel to our own. Basil the Great Mouse Detective is just set many years prior to The Rescuers, and when I was a child I often thought that there were sequels. This, however, isn't true. The movies have no connection to one another in any other way, in any way. Shame, though. It would have been great to think that all those years ago, Disney was concocting their own mouse-shared universe. The Rescuers does, however, have a sequel, which was one of the first Disney sequels to actually be made for an animated classic. The Rescuers Down Under, released in 1990. So I suppose in a small way they did. So anywho, back on track, The Rescuers revolves around Penny, a human little girl who has been kidnapped from an orphanage to be used by her kidnappers to obtain treasure from inside an old pirate cave system deep within the Louisiana swamps at a place called the Devil's Bayou. In despair and with little luck in the way of an escape, Penny writes a message and sets this to sail in a bottle. This is then aptly picked up by the Rescue Aid Society, and a grand emergency meeting is called between all of the participating nations. We then follow the two mice from the society, Miss Bianca and Bernard, as they embark on a perilous mission from New York to Louisiana to save Penny from her captors. The film has a strong sense of adventure and contains some mild peril along the way. Unlike other Disney animations produced around the same time, this film doesn't contain any musical numbers at all. It does, however, have a soundtrack containing a number of songs used across the film's narrative to aid in the overall storytelling of the movie. One element of the film which struck me as quite outdated and a bit cringy in places is in a film placed and aimed at children, was the fact that it contains inference to the magic properties of moonshine, and by that I mean homebrew liquor. When our two heroes reach the Devil's Bayou, they are greeted by a bunch of enthusiastic volunteers made up of the critters in the area. Amongst them is an elderly mouse who brews his own moonshine, which throughout the film is tipped to be the fuel that cures all ails. It kickstarts the elderly mouse into action and gives the boat used by the team a super kickstart. I can see where the idea came from, given the stereotypes portrayed in the film and the comedy which it propagates. However, I felt perhaps this was a little out of place in a kid's film. Personally, for me, the film is okay, but doesn't stand out as one of the most memorable Disney classics. Not for me. This is a bit controversial, I know, given the fact that the film was an amazing success when it was first released. But personally, I found the story a bit dry and less punchy overall than other Disney classics produced around that time. Don't get me wrong, the film is still definitely worth a watch, and it can still be quite entertaining at times. In fact, as I stated earlier, we watched it as part of the family film night, but we watched it as part of the double bill with the Jungle Book, 1967's Jungle Book, with our 6-year-old son. And when quizzed, he said that he preferred The Rescuers and wanted to watch it again the next day. So what can you say? And I would suppose he's closer to the film's target audience than I am. So, that brings me to the end of this episode. Many thanks for watching. If you do like my movie reviews and my general movie discussions, please do hit that subscribe button. Please do feel free to leave a like on this page and any other episode that we've done in the past. If you do have any comments and especially any ideas for any other movie reviews that you'd like me to do of films that you've watched recently, then please do drop us a line. But otherwise, many thanks for watching. Goodbye.